now. It's just a really rare and wonderful opportunity to be able to come together and meditate together. So just appreciating that you're here. So just as always, just a welcome. Just grateful for this opportunity to be together and share some mindfulness practices, different ways of practicing being with what's happening, in this mind and this body. So we're more aware of what's happening in our lives. And as we become more aware, it gives us a little, I don't know what your experience is, but I find it gives me a little more space, slows things down a little bit through the practice and allows me to respond a little more skillfully in everyday life. So we do this meditation as for that reason, but also meditation just as an opportunity to invite ourselves to just put down all the things that we normally ask ourselves to do, this mind and this body, all the demands we make on ourselves. And this is kind of like a little mini vacation. So just letting go of all the doing, ending me having to do something, to be somewhere, to keep producing or being, showing up, and just allowing ourselves to just rest in this awareness, this relatively quiet space, and with relatively little to do other than just pay attention to what's happening right now. So let's begin our practice as we often do with grounding meditation. So taking your meditation posture, whatever is comfortable, sitting, standing, lying down, in a way that your body feels supported. If your feet are in contact with the ground, feeling that connection to the groundedness. If you're sitting on something or resting on something, feeling the body being supported by that furniture, the chair, cushion, whatever you're on. But so in that resting, the groundedness, the support, that gives us the strength and the support to invite the spine to be upright and long, just inviting that length. That allows the mind to be more alert. But not so upright and alert that we're tense, so inviting relaxation. So grounded, upright, relaxed, closing the eyes if you're comfortable, otherwise just having a soft gaze, and the bell will invite us into the meditation. So the fading of the bell, that's our invitation to come inwards, letting go of everything that it took to be here. Now that we're present, you can just notice how it is right now. How's the mind? Is it waiting for something to happen? Is it still checking off the to-do list of things that you were doing before you came here? Just the general mood of the mind. Is it wanting something, wanting to get rid of something? Or is it just resting in awareness? It's like this. However it is, this is the mind right now. And then the body, how's the body? Just an overall sense of the energy of the body. Is it relaxed? Is it restless? Is there no energy? So just notice how that is too. Maybe there's a sensation in the body that's strong. We can notice that too. It's wanting our attention. We can notice it but not get caught in it. So this is the basic process. We're just checking in to see how it is right now. We can do it more intentionally, so set the intention to be present with this body, to really be present with this mind, really being present in this body. Most of the time we live in our heads, our brains, our thinking mind, and not really in this body. So setting the intention to be present with this body. And we can do that maybe a little more intentionally through just going to various points in the body and bring the awareness there and making an invitation for that awareness. So starting up in the head, maybe bring the awareness just to the forehead and eyes. Just noticing how it is there right now. So the forehead, eyes, the upper part of the head. Maybe you can notice a sensation. Maybe we notice tension. Or maybe we don't feel anything. You can notice that too. We could even invite, like intentionally tense up the forehead and the eyes, scrunch it up a little, and then allow it to relax. And just notice the change if we do that. The ending of tension. And then moving down at the head, through into the cheeks, the jaw, the lower head. What's the sensation there? Noticing how it is. And then if we want, we could intentionally tighten the jaw. And then relax, invite it to relax and notice the change in sensation and how it is as we do this. Then moving down into the throat, down into the shoulders, upper back, inviting awareness there of the neck and shoulders and upper back. How is it there? And again, we can tense up the shoulders, bring them up to the ears, tighten everything up, and then invite it to relax. Feeling the end of tension there. And noticing the mood of the mind with this change between tension and non-tension. And then moving down the arms, upper arm, lower arm, down into the hands and the fingers. Noticing sensation there. Again, we can intentionally tense up the hands, fingers, and then release. Noticing how that feels. Just observing, we're not judging when any of this is good or bad. We just, tension is like this. Release of tension is like this. Then moving back up the arms, lower arm, upper arm, back into the shoulders, upper back, noticing how that is now. Is it the same or different? Not judging, just noticing. And then moving down the back, the middle of the back, lower back, down into the hips. Noticing how it is there, the lower back and hip area. Maybe you feel pressure from a support that you're on. Notice if there's tension or relaxation. And again, if you want to invite intentional tensing up of that area, tightening the muscles and inviting relaxation. Noticing the change in the sensation, the ending of tension. And then moving down the legs, the thighs, the calves, down the ankles to the feet and toes. What's the sensation there, if there is any? And then again, inviting tension if you wish. And then observing that and observing the release. Just noticing the change. And moving from the feet and toes up into ankles, shins, knees, thighs, hips. How is it there? Is there relaxation or tension in the hips? Up into the belly. Noticing if there's tension or ease there. Into the middle of the chest, the upper chest. Noticing how it is there. Upper chest and maybe the shoulders again. And if you wish, invite some tension there and then allow for release. Noticing the effect. And moving back up into the neck, back up into the head, to the tip of the nose, maybe feeling the breath at the nose. And just feeling the rhythm of the breath, whether it's at the nose or further down in the body, the throat, the belly. We're just feeling the whole body breathing. We can feel the rhythm of the breath. We can feel the inhale, the receiving, and then the exhale, the letting go, the release. Noticing if there's ease or if there's some tension in the breath, and not trying to change it, just noticing how it is. Inhale, the receiving is like this. The exhale, the letting go is like this. And all the while, the awareness is just noticing the sensation of the body breathing. And noticing if there's any tension in the body anywhere that comes into awareness. Not judging, not trying to change it, just noticing. And also noticing if there's any tension in the mind. So relaxation, or is there some mental energy that's bound up? You just notice it's like this. So this is a basic practice, noticing how it is right here in this moment. It's like this. We're aware of this. In the next moment, we're aware of maybe something else. And now it's like this. This constant movement of awareness, of things coming and going, beginnings and endings. And the mind just watching. So receiving the sound of the bell allows us to let go of that observational practice and just reflect on what we might have observed, where we hold tension, the difference between tension and relaxation, anything we might have seen. Or if we just went to sleep, we can notice that. Or if we were thinking the whole time, we can notice that. And then letting it go and just coming back to being aware of being together here. Yeah, so that little grounding exploration, noticing tension and release in the body. We're just bringing awareness to the different parts of the body, and we may notice there was sensation some places and there was no sensation other places. So just noticing how it is and how the mind responds for each of those, or also noticing if the mind wandered off, what the effect of that was. So we can do this sequential noticing of changing awareness of the body, by setting an intention to notice different parts of the body. But if we really start to pay attention, we find that the mind is changing what it's paying attention to all the time. It's receiving different sensory inputs, different thoughts come up, they come and they go. And we can notice what the effect is on the mind and the body of these various sensory experiences, or thoughts, and whether they cause tension, whether we get caught up in some of them. Maybe a thought will carry us away, and then there's tension tied into that being carried away. But then eventually that may move on and something else may come. And usually what we notice is the arrival of a thought. We're getting caught in a thought, or notice a body sensation, and we notice that we're aware of that now all of a sudden, and maybe we'll get caught in the story of its sensation or a sound or a thought or a desire. And we get caught up in a while, and then it changes, but we don't really notice the ending of it. We just notice the next thing that we pick up. So we never notice that things do eventually end. And a lot of my teachers emphasize this practice of noticing the ending of things, especially if we tend to, maybe if we have chronic pain, or if we have obsessive thinking about something or worrying. We think it goes on forever, and that this never ends, and it feels exhausting, whether it's the pain or continual thinking. But if we really start paying attention to what's actually happened, we can see that there are subtle changes. Even like a pain isn't constant. There's some change in the actual sensation of it. Maybe it's throbbing, maybe it's sharp, and maybe there's actually gaps in there. Maybe it subsides and then it comes back up again, but it has the impression of being continual. And the same for what feels like obsessive thinking, something we feel we have to do. We can feel the energy of that, say we have to keep pursuing this. But if we allow, we can just notice that happening. And then if we just really allow the mind to really pay attention, there's other things that can come up if we don't just get caught in whether it's a sensation or a thought. And if we start to train ourselves to notice the endings, we can see when something ends, there is actually like a space when it ends and before the mind picks the next thing up. And we can notice the ease or just a little bit of a relief in that space, just that very short space. And maybe just like, being in this meditation session, this is your ending of your busy day temporarily. And then you're giving yourself this space to come inwards and practice. And then eventually this will be over, and then the next thing will be happening. You'll be back into the busyness of life. But this space, you can feel even within this session, you'll feel times when there is spaciousness, and then you'll feel your mind picking something up. Or even when I'm talking, you're trying to take it in, you can maybe feel tension around that. And when there's a pause, there's ease. Unless your mind's leaning into what the next thing is going to be. So we can watch the habits of the mind. Is it waiting for that next thing to happen? Or can it rest in that space and see what else is happening? And this can be an interesting exploration, so we can start to notice when things end, not just noticing things, especially things that feel like they never go away. Like if you're awake in the middle of the night and obsessive thinking and you think it's continual, but if you really start paying attention, there are gaps in it. And if we can encourage the gaps, that spaciousness, then it allows for some relaxation. So noticing the effect of when there's busyness, when there's activity, something to really focus on, and then noticing the effect of when the ending happens before we pick the next thing up. And maybe the effect is boredom. Maybe the mind's bored and immediately wants to do something else, So we can keep exploring this, through the meditation, but also then we can take it into our everyday life and notice the difference in how the mind is when we're really engaged in something. But can we notice, like a lot of us who are task oriented, we can have things on the to-do list, and as soon as we get done with one, we check the list and we jump into the next thing without allowing the spaciousness to just appreciate, like, oh, I finished that, and just relaxing into that complete sense of completion before we jump into the next thing. So all of this is just inviting more space in our life for those of us who feel like life is just too full, which is pretty much all of us, I think. And whether we're stuck at home and feel like nothing's happening, the feeling of endlessness of boredom, we can notice that. But if we really start paying attention, we'll see there are other things happening, but we have to, pay closer attention. And that's why we look at boring meditation objects like the breath. It's not that interesting, but can we get interested in it and see the changing nature of the breath and see what we can learn from that or from our thoughts or whatever. So just some things to reflect on. So noticing endings, play with that in this meditation that I'll give some guidance on. And again, we can watch, can the mind stay interested in what we give it as a meditation object, or does it get bored and wander off to something else, and what's the effect? But can we notice the ending of when our mind gets caught by that something else, noticing the space, and then it picks up something else and noticing what it's inclined towards picking up next. But really noticing the ending and that space, or whatever else you notice during this. So just paying attention. So we'll let all that theory go and retake our meditation posture, that groundedness, alertness, and the relaxation, closing the eyes if you're comfortable, and the bell will transition us. So the fading of the bell, fading of that invitation to come inwards. Again, we can just check in. How is it right now? Noticing how it is. And maybe even as we're noticing how it is, we can notice our perception of what we're experiencing is changing moment to moment. Maybe it feels like nothing's happening, but maybe you can feel some sensations coming and going. It's like this. And then setting the intention, this meditation, to be with our meditation object as best we can, knowing the mind's gonna wander off, but being with the breath maybe be a good one, or whatever. And the intention to notice, pay special attention to the ending of whatever our experience is in this moment to moment. Beginnings and endings, especially the endings. So the breath, or a body sensation, or if you use a phrase, noticing when it begins, notice an ending, and notice the space after the ending, before the next beginning happens. Just setting that intention. So if we are with the breath, noticing breathing in, noticing the ending of the in-breath, space, the beginning of the out-breath, the end of the out-breath, or whatever your meditation object is. checking in to notice what the mind's paying attention to, if it's still just noticing the meditation object, sensations of the breath coming and going, noticing beginnings and endings. Or maybe the mind was lost in thought or drowsiness. We can notice that too, noticing the effect. And now maybe we notice with the sound of my voice that whatever the mind was paying attention to, that has ended. Now the mind can go back to paying attention to the meditation object. Beginning and ending. In the space, the beginnings and endings, things coming and going, breath, body sensations, thoughts coming and going. The mind just watching, seeing things begin and end. Checking in to see if the mind is still observing things coming and going, the meditation object, sensations, the breath coming and going. Or if it's caught in something, maybe caught in thinking, or caught in drowsiness, dullness, just noticing that now it's different yet from how it was when this voice first came in to remind you. And if the mind continues to go off thinking, you can just notice the effect of that. It feels like it goes forever. But if you direct maybe closer attention to your meditation object, it would engage the mind more, and just seeing things arise and pass in body sensations. And the same for drowsiness, just inviting closer observation. Can we get interested, curious in things coming and going, which is what really happens unless we get caught in either excessive thinking or excessive restlessness or excessive drowsiness. So arousing curiosity. So returning to the meditation object, watching breath, body sensations coming and going. Can we invite the mind to stay curious in this changing experience? And the ending of thought, ending of the breath, endings of body sensations. Noticing if we're still present with our meditation object, coming and going of sensations, breath, whatever. Or if we've gotten caught in something that the mind planning, thinking, caught in drowsiness, just noticing the effect. And then inviting the awareness to come back to the meditation object. And be interested in just these subtle changes. Watching changing sensations, breath, thoughts coming and going. And if we don't hold on to them, there's a sense of spaciousness. This practice can be really subtle. The mind may get groggy from the subtleness of this practice. So you could even mentally note what each thing is that you're observing to give the mind something to do, especially if there's a drowsiness or a boredom. So breathing in, you just know breathing in, ending, space, breathing out, ending, space. Or if there's a sensation, you can name what it is. Pulsing. Heat. Or if there's a thought, just planning. Or even if there's drowsiness. Drowsiness is like this. Just in the naming, there's a beginning and an ending to that. The mind noting, changing phenomena, thinking, sensations, breathing in, breathing out. Things coming and going into the awareness. The mind is just watching. Can we get interested in moment to moment changes? Mind noticing and naming these changing experiences as they come and go. The arising of sensation or thought, the ending, maybe the space before the next thing comes up. Maybe we can intentionally bring the awareness back to the sensation of the breath, whether we feel it as a sensation in the body or just aware of the energy of breathing in and then the breathing out. Breathing in, there's a brief pause or space, and then breathing out, space. This rhythm, this constant change, the breath is always moving. Sensations in the body are coming and going. Thoughts are coming and going. And can the mind just be present with them, interested but not caught up in them? Can we stay interested but not bored in these subtle changes in our life? So we can train to do this. It's subtle, but it allows us to see the changes that happen in our everyday life too. If we just pay attention. This is arising. This is ceasing. The next thing is arising. All the interesting things in life, if we just pay attention. So the bell invites us to bring the awareness back to the surface again. And what you may have noticed during that meditation about where your mind, what it paid attention to, what it was bored with, and whether there's any spaciousness or whether it was constant thought or whether there was dullness. No judging about it, just noticing what happened. And then coming back to being aware of being together here. So again, this is a really subtle practice. It may have felt a little frustrating to you. Watching the endings of things are boring, right? Sometimes it's like, and a lot of times we don't want things to end. Things that we really like, we don't want to end, but they will end eventually. Painful experience we want to end, and it seems like it never does. And the things that really enjoy, we want them to last, and then they don't. And we can notice our frustration with that. Or we can notice if the mind just isn't even interested in this, that it's too boring. And just noticing that too, that the desire to check out and the dullness that comes from that too, from this subtle work, noticing that we like things to be more challenging, more engaging, that's the habit of the mind, but we can also then feel how exhausting that is sometimes if we just keep paying attention. So these are just things to explore. And again, not just in meditation, but noticing in our everyday life. Can we watch the changing nature of experience, how we're relating to it? Can we notice that there are spaces throughout the day, even in a busy day, noticing the endings of things before we pick up the next thing to do? And in that space, it allows for some relaxation. Or it can, if we just can notice that subtlety. So. Anyway, more things to play with. Thanks again for doing this exploration with me today. Hopefully there was something that you might have noticed that was helpful. And Nancy and I look forward to being with you again in the next session. Thank you for your practice.